Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Hayden Coker Show. We are live from the Chick-fil-A in Pell City. Thank you, Mr. Brian Jennings, for my greatest sponsor, him and J.K. Ty. We highly appreciate those guys out there. Welcome in, everybody. I'm highly appreciative that everybody's tuning in tonight. Big show tonight. We've got the Iron Bowl this weekend. The Civil War, no more. The Holy War last week or 2 weeks ago. You've got some big games this week, okay? You got the Iron Bowl going on. You've got Georgia versus Georgia Tech. Good old-fashioned hate. And you have South Carolina and Clemson, which is going to be another good one. We're going to talk a lot about these games. We're going to break down the top 12. We're going to tell you a little bit about why we think that some of these teams don't belong and some of these teams do belong. So, Mr. B, I want to hand it straight over to you first. By the way, these are our special guests. I have Mr. Brian Jennings, operator here at the Chick-fil-A in Pell City, and Cody Miller, catering director here at the Chick-fil-A in Pell City. So I highly appreciate everybody for tuning in. Now I want to get their opinion, and we're gonna dive into this pretty quick. We're gonna go in right off the bat. First up, Oregon, and we have Oregon and Washington playing this weekend. So how you feel about this game? Where do you think this game's gonna go?
First of all, I just apologize about my voice. Hayden, I think it'll probably be kind of like Oregon's last couple games. It'll be close. It'll be back and forth at the beginning. In the end, Oregon's just a lot better than they are, and they're going to end up pulling away in the second half.
Yeah, and I think Oregon's a lot better than a bunch of teams right now, and they're one of the best teams in the country.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
It'll be really fun to see how they come out and they kind of explode on the scene tomorrow night. Cody, who you got in this one?
I'm going to go Oregon the same way. I think they've got one of the most explosive offenses right now. They're quick to make plays. So I think Oregon's going to pull this one out.
Like I said, bunch of big games this weekend, and some of these games are not necessarily being overlooked. I'd say I won't say overlooked, but I would say that some of them mean a little bit more to the other team than those who are trying to get in and those who are trying to solidify their spot in the college football playoff right now.
A lot of spoilers.
A lot of spoilers. We've got 12 teams in the college football playoff right now. Obviously, this is the first year that we've been doing this, so it's very, very interesting to see. We've got a lot to talk about when it comes to each one of these teams. We have Oregon, who's the number 1 team in the country right now, followed by number 2, Ohio State. You have number 3, Texas, number 4, Penn State, number 5, Notre Dame, number 6, Miami, number 7, Georgia, number 8, the Tennessee Volunteers, number 9, SMU has snuck in there, number 10, Indiana, number 11, Boise State, and number 12, Clemson. Then you have Alabama sitting right at number 13, Ole Miss 14, South Carolina 15, and then you have Arizona State sitting at 16. So you've got some of these teams who are on the outside looking in. Arizona State, one of the main teams that we're looking at right now, who could possibly make that jump because, guys, all they have to do is win. They win, make the Big 12 championship game, okay? If you win the Big 12 championship game, you're in. So the path for them.
I wouldn't want to have to stop Scatterby.
No.
That dude's a man.
He's good. I wouldn't want to stop him either. Did you see his postgame or his halftime speech the other night?
I did not.
It includes some expletives, and due to where we are at right now, I will not repeat what he said. But it was
They're playing with a lot of confidence, and that dude, I'd give him the ball 30 times, and I'd ride him.
I think you give him the ball 30 times to the ground and possibly 5 through the air. He's just simply that guy. Sam Levitt at the quarterback position, he's been playing really well all year. So I think they've got it going. So I would not be surprised if Arizona State snuck in there. But what do you think? What do you guys think about Bama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina? South Carolina's kind of come onto the scene late, got really, really hot as of late. Ole Miss has kind of cooled down a lot, and they beat Georgia, and then they just kind of fall off. And now Alabama, who is just seemed like all the wheels have fallen off the bus. So where do you guys think of stand on that end, Mr. B? I'll hand it over to you.
I think part of South Carolina's problem is they lost to the other 2 teams. So they may be playing the best right now, but it's hard to argue with what happened on the field.
Exactly.
And so I think the other 2 deserve to be in front. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that any of them deserve to be in the playoffs, but it's their own fault. But they might end up being there just because I don't know that we got 12 teams that deserve to be in the playoffs.
It's a very, very interesting topic of conversation because if you really look at how Alabama has played on the home stretch, it's been horrible. Ole Miss has been horrible.
At times in the year, all 3 of them have looked like, man, they could be in that top 4. And at times, they look like garbage. And so there's no consistency. And I think that's kind of the theme for the season. Really, outside of maybe Oregon and Ohio State, nobody's had consistency.
And consistency is what you like to see, especially when it comes to these elongated seasons. It's like you talk about the 12-team playoff, and you talk about these SEC, ACC, all these conference championships and everything, all these conference championships going on. The more, and guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if if the season is expanded over the next few years. I mean, I'm not saying by much, but I'd say it's a good possibility with just where things are going. But the way things are going so far, I think you have to take a look at it and really dive into the schedule.
I was one from the beginning. I thought we should stick with 4. One of the things I think is special about college football is you got to be perfect or close to it. And so, I mean, it's not the NFL; it's different. But I always said from the beginning, if we're going to go past 4, let's go to 16 or 24. Let's go full FCS playoffs. Because I mean, it doesn't make sense to stop at 12. And let's be honest, if you're one of those 4 teams that gets a bye, all those teams love to have a home playoff game and all the buzz and fun that would be. Why not have 8 home games instead of 4?
Yeah, exactly. It's special. This is a time of year where you sit back and think and just kind of recollect on what's happened over the season, and you really kind of sit there and let your mind marinate on what could be of things. Like this is easily a 4-team playoff right now. It easily could be. You have Oregon who'd be there, Ohio State, Texas, and then who's your 4th? It's a wild card moment. So it's interesting to see. And like you said, why stop at 12 instead of going to just like 16 or 24? To me, it would just make more sense.
Hey, Texas ain't gonna be there.
They top 4 right now.
No, at the end of the year.
Oh no, probably not. I think they probably lose the SEC championship
If they make it to the SEC championship.
You think they win tomorrow night?
Well, we'll see. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it a little bit later on. Can't spoil it.
But I mean, Texas has beat as many good teams as you and I have.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's hard to do.
They just had. They beat as many good teams as Penn State has and Indiana has.
Penn State will get you started on that.
I mean, we got about 5 teams in that 12 that I'm waiting on them to play a good team and beat them.
Which really, Hayden, in my opinion, the SEC is kind of a toss-up period on who really in the top teams should be in the SEC championship. I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I think you're right. It's a toss-up, but it's the cleanest of most of the conferences. I mean, you look at the Big 12, you look at the SEC, the ACC, they're all kind of jumbled. The SEC is actually cleared up, although there's a lot of question whether those are really the best teams or not.
Yeah, I think there's 2 elite teams in the Big 12.
If you take Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, if any of them play Texas' schedule, they're probably in the same place Texas is. Because Texas hasn't played anybody except for Georgia, and they got their tails whooped.
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about because there's some of these teams, like you mentioned in the Big Ten, there's 2 good teams. I think there's 2 elite teams in the Big Ten right now.
There's 2 good teams. There's 2 okay teams, and the rest of them are terrible. And I don't mean they're just average. I mean they're terrible. They're terrible. Did you watch Minnesota, Wisconsin today? They're terrible. Did I mention they're terrible?
There's a growing stipulation that the rest of the Big Ten is absolutely terrible outside of Oregon and Ohio State. So we're gonna leave it there on that one. I want to talk to you a little bit about Chick-fil-A and catering. Look, Saturdays, we all know about Saturdays and football and what all goes on, guys. I know you don't want to leave your house as much on Saturdays unless it's to watch a game. Even then, if you're going out to these other restaurants, what you need to be doing is getting your catering delivered to you or come and pick it up at the Chick-fil-A in Pell City. You take it home. You have a nugget tray. You have a strip tray, whatever you want. You have it right in front of you, so you don't have to go. So catering is a way to go when it comes to the Chick-fil-A in Pell City. Just talk to this guy right here. You can call him, and he will get everything under wraps for you. It's just as simple as that. Simple as that. Whether it's a mac and cheese tray, you have brownies, cookies. Guys, they got it all. And this guy knows just as much about it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can do it chilled, we can do it hot, and it usually takes about 30 to 40 minutes to get it ready. So
I mean, if you're getting ready to go to the Iron Bowl this weekend, stop by Chick-fil-A Pell City, and we'll get you taken care of.
And that is how you do that, Mr. B. I don't know if you've seen a perfect advertisement like Cody just did. That's how you pay. That's how you pay the bills right there.
That's it.
But yeah, and J.K. Tire, guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about them. On Monday morning, and I will be going down to J&K Tire. I've got to get my tires fit. I've got to get my tires rotated and balanced. I've got to get my oil changed. I've got to go to Oklahoma to see the lady. So I don't got to do anything. I get to. So I've got to go down to J&K Tire, and you can go down to J&K Tire as well. All you got to do is go down to the tire store in Alabama. You can contact J&K Tire. That's Kurt at 256-570-0777, 256-570-0777 for all your vehicular needs, whether you need to get your oil changed, your struts, minor auto repairs, whatever it is. Those guys have got you. Cody, we talked a little bit about the college football playoff earlier and how those 12 spots are just kind of lined up right now. They aren't necessarily taken. So you have maybe 2 spots that are taken right now. Everything else is up for grabs. So what exactly do you think is going to happen over this weekend? And is Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State, is that going to be the Final Four as we go into this, or as we end the weekend?
Honestly, right now it's a toss-up. I mean, like Mr. B has said, most of these teams have not really had a solid strength schedule. I will say this: Texas has not really played anybody except Georgia. But in my opinion, in the last couple of years since Steve Sarkisian has taken over, Sarkisian has really done a solid job at Texas. He has been in that game with Alabama before as a coordinator. I do think Texas could be there, but it depends on how they play. Do they choke it, or do they play hard and they win?
The one thing I will give it to Texas, they tried to have a difficult game. They scheduled to go up to Michigan. It's not their fault that Michigan started. But yeah, they tried. Alabama tried. They went to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, it just ended up being terrible. Penn State at least, and I don't give Penn State much credit. They at least went to West Virginia. So they tried to find somebody good. Indiana dropped Louisville off the schedule and played the FCS team instead. They did not try to play anybody. 122 in the country.
Yeah.
Non-conference schedule. They tried to avoid playing somebody.
Yeah.
That's my thing is, how do we figure out in the rankings, how do we encourage people to play a strong non-conference schedule? Because if we got to punish people,
bad schedule doesn't make any sense at all. Right?
That's what we're doing right now. We got to punish people when they don't play anybody, and we got to reward the teams that are trying to.
Exactly.
And I think I will say this about, and I know we sit and we talk about the Southeastern Conference a lot here, but I will say that I think that the Southeastern Conference does play one of the toughest schedules out there. That's why you have a lot of these teams with 2 and 3 losses this season, is because they played very well. One thing that is coming into a factor is the transfer portal. Transfer portal has kind of hit the SEC hard, like Alabama. With Nick Saban retiring, you see a bunch of those big key players transfer out, and it has kind of hurt their season this year. New coach, lose a few key players. But with, Penn State, to be honest with you, going back to the top 4 there, Hayden, I would say that Penn State stays there, but I'm going to say Notre Dame may knock Texas out of that 4th spot, and you've got Notre Dame sitting there. So you got Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Notre Dame sitting in your top 4 at the ACC.
Well, what's going to be interesting is how they've really lined it up with the Big 12. Because as over the last few weeks, we've seen Boise State sneak into that 4th spot in the projected final poll. So what I'm thinking is, they won today. They ended up winning today. Ashton Genty ended up with over 2,000 yards on the year, over 25 touchdowns. I believe it was over 30 touchdowns. So Boise State kind of sneaking into that spot. Does that happen? We'll see whether or not that does happen. To be honest with you, I mean, if you take the Big 12 out of that picture, I wouldn't be mad, because the Big 12 has looked like absolute dog food. I mean, they haven't looked good.
I will tell you, I think the Big 12 is not quite as bad as you're saying. They just don't have anybody elite. But they've got, if you want to compare it to the Big 10, take away the first 2, and the Big 12 is better than the rest of the conference.
You're not wrong.
You take away the SEC, if you take away the top 2 or 3, they're as good as the rest of the conference. They just don't have that elite team. But I would tell you, Boise, I was afraid because they've been kind of down. But they went back up today. They look good.
They did.
But they've got to beat UNLV a second time.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't count that till it happens.
The thing is, will they be able to do that? That's something that I've kind of thought about over the last few weeks. You know, if Boise State ends up playing, and this was me thinking back then, if Boise State ends up playing UNLV in that championship game, do they win that?
I think that they do, and they get them at Boise, so that definitely helps too. Because you're going to leave Nevada and go play in 10-degree temperature.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun for them. I'm glad I'm not doing it.
Is it not interesting, though, seeing some of these teams who are going to, like taking Jacksonville State? They're going to play the winner of Liberty and Sam Houston State next week in the Conference USA Championship game. That game is hosted at Jacksonville State. This will be the first time, obviously, that Jacksonville State's hosted the Conference USA Championship game. What I think is even more interesting is how this is kind of like a reoccurring trend. We see these lower tier conferences. They're hosting, or the home team is hosting. They aren't having a neutral site, and I think that's very interesting. I want to see if that kind of changes over the next few years.
Well, they want to have a full stadium, and they realize the SEC doesn't have to do that. Have a full stadium. The Big Ten doesn't have to do that. Have a full stadium. They've got to do it. I don't know if you saw Tulane last night. Tulane's really good. Memphis is really good. Both of those teams may win the Big 12. I mean, let's be honest.
You're not wrong.
But the stadium was empty. And I realize it's Thanksgiving night, and I don't know if I'd want to go to it on Thanksgiving night. But that's what they're trying to avoid. They're trying to avoid the empty stadium. They want a full stadium. And guess what? Next week at Jack State, it's going to be full.
Oh, it'll be full.
It's going to be packed.
You'll have the students. There will
The
not be
butt kicking chickens are coming.
The butt chickens. The butt chicken.
The butt kicking chickens.
There you go. There you go.
So, and I agree with you, Mr. B. They're wanting to fill the stadiums. But I will say this: if you win and you get that home field advantage, that's going to be a key factor. Because if you get that crowd noise playing an effect on those teams, all it takes is one turnover to change a game.
Yep. And if you look what's happened over the past few, and you can even take an NFL game, for example. Let's take a look at the Lions and Bears. They played yesterday on Thanksgiving. It was a pretty rough Thanksgiving slate. You had the Cowboys and Giants play right after them. Then you have to top it off with the Packers and Bears, or the Packers and Dolphins. But something I thought was very interesting about it is we see this all the time in college football. The momentum shift. From the first half, the Detroit Lions dominated. In the second half, it was all Bears. So that happens in college football too. And so it's interesting to see it happen week by week. It'll be different, whether it's different teams, whether it's the same team. God knows Auburn's done it multiple times this year.
You saw Navy today scored 0 in the first half, 34 in the second.
It happens.
And can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Does Matt Eberflus call Mario Cristobal for clock management advice?
Well, from what I've seen this year, he should call Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, you're right.
It's so he's made some pretty questionable decisions.
It's my issue with Hugh Freeze is body language. I'm Auburn graduate. I like Hugh Freeze, but his body language is terrible.
Yeah.
He's almost pitching a hissy fit on the sideline sometimes, and I wish he would be pulling people together, encouraging them, getting them going. But he's just, to me, that's his leadership's got to improve.
Yeah.
And I think if you watch how Auburn performs at the end of a game, that's got to tie in. You've got to be bringing the consensus, bringing the team together, rallying the team, and that's just not something he does, and that bothers me. And I'd like to see that improve. I really would.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. We've got people watching from Hood. We've got people watching from Hood, Alabama tonight. Still Alabama, Asheville, Alabama, and then Hill City as well. I'm gonna get to a few Facebook comments here in just a second. We had a few people drop in their takes on who they thought would be making who was the top 4 teams at the moment, or at the memento. So what I really thought was interesting is was some people are trying to sneak Tennessee. I think they'd sneak Tennessee in the top 4 right now.
I think in the final iteration, it can't be Tennessee because whoever wins the SEC is going to jump ahead of them. And there's no way if you're Texas and you win 2 games in a row, you're going to stay ahead. If you're Georgia, if you beat Tech and win the SEC, you're going to be ahead of Tennessee. You beat Tennessee. If you're Texas A&M and you beat Texas and then beat Georgia, you may jump Tennessee.
Maybe top 7.
Because, I mean, realistically, Tennessee, they beat Alabama. Alabama beat themselves as much as Tennessee beat them. And who else is Tennessee beat?
I mean, Florida. If you want to add Florida in there, Florida.
I
think the record.
if you played Florida in the second half of the season, you played a lot better team than you played the first half.
Exactly, I agree 100%. And if you look at some of these comments, Mickey Farmer chimes in, says Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Tennessee. Mason Pacho from Pell City says the 4 best teams are Alabama in the first half of the Georgia game, Georgia against Texas or Tennessee, Notre Dame playing in a service academy, and then preseason LSU. You can't really go wrong there. Freddie Naranjo chimes in from Columbia. And on a more serious note, we have Texas, Georgia, probably a Big Ten team, and maybe Oregon. So he's got 4 teams there.
Is Oregon not a Big Ten team?
Yeah, I think he's talking about Ohio State there. And then we have Clint Hathcock chiming in from Steele, Alabama, saying Oregon, Texas, Georgia, and Ohio State. And I think that's probably the best one on this list we just read. So, there's a few teams we've got here.
If Texas wins the SEC, they'll deserve to be there.
Absolutely.
I can't put them there yet.
Not yet.
But it's all out in front of them. They've got every opportunity. I mean, let's be honest. If they win out and win the SEC, they're probably number 2.
Well, Carson Beck's got to play better overall. He's got to play better overall. You saw over the last few games, he's really kind of turned it on. He hasn't turned the ball over in his last, I believe, it's 2 or 3 games.
Georgia, when Carson Beck plays well, may be the best team in the country.
I think they are.
But can you count on that happening 3 straight games?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Well,
That's like Auburn. When Peyton Thorne throws it to the same color jersey, they're pretty doggone good. But you can't count on that happening 2 quarters in a row.
It's usually 1 or 2 times a game. It's not that. Cody, what you got?
Well, I was going to say, going back to Mason's comment there, Alabama in the first half of the Georgia game. Look at Carson Beck in that. He didn't play a very good first half, but when he came out in the second half, he played a really well second half and nearly took Georgia to beat Alabama in that game.
Still had a pick in the second half too.
Still had a pick, but I will say that the defense for Alabama, when they're on their game, they're very good. But when they're off, they're off. That one pick against that team, right? That defense there for Carson Beck, I think was pretty solid. I think he's easily one of the best if he plays the rest of the season.
If that's a big if, but if he does, I think Oregon can win it all. I don't have full confidence in it. I think Ohio State can win it all. I don't, as long as they blow people out, because Ryan Day is going to shrink like a raisin if it's a tight game. Man, he's going to squeeze. His sphincters like this. He can't take it. But if Carson Beck plays well, I'll take Georgia over either of those teams. But it's a big if. It's a big if.
There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts about this, but there's not going to be an if. Go ahead.
I said the one team that nobody's talking about, that they're not the best team in the country. They're not the most talented team in the country. But they play with a lot of confidence, and I would not want to play SMU.
No,
because they're not good enough to win it all, but nobody's told them that yet. And they just go out there and beat people.
Yeah.
And until somebody beats them, I realize they lost to BYU first game of the year. They figured out their quarterback. And since then, even Duke, they tried to give Duke a game, and Duke would take it.
No.
I would not want to play SMU.
The thing about SMU is they've got one of the best defensive fronts in the country. They're top 5 against the run, and that just has a real stat. Did I just read off a real stat?
Yeah.
Top of my head, I'm kind of concerned. But no, the thing about SMU is they really are one of the best. They have one of the best defenses in the country. Kevin Jennings, somebody that not many people are talking about, really, really dynamic quarterback. quarterback was supposed to be Preston Stone early on in the year. Well, he starts the first 2 games of the year, stinks a bit. Okay, the first game of the year against Nevada, he started first quarter, second quarter, I believe he went out. Kevin Jennings then comes in. The second game, Preston Stone starts. What happens? He plays bad. Kevin Jennings comes back in, and he kind of. He's a successor of Preston Stone, and now it's just kind of been Kevin Jennings all year. He's been playing out of his mind. He's very, very good. He made some really nice plays against Boston College that I thought were just eye-popping.
It's a hard offense to play against. You gotta have strict assignment discipline because they got eye candy all over the place.
Yeah, and I thought I saw him run out of a wishbone, like kind of like the in pistol formation, which you run wishbone. I thought that was very interesting. They're a very dynamic team. They can do a bunch of exactly. Brett Lashley, I'll give a lot of credit to him. He's done a phenomenal job with that Mustangs football team.
I don't know if he'll be back for the playoffs or not. Maryland, their tight end.
I believe he's supposed to be
the
back,
best team, maybe the best tight end in the country.
He's good. He's one of those guys that you just don't necessarily like. He doesn't pop off the paper at first, or especially in the earlier on in the season of some of these teams. But now he's really come on. I believe he's Rashad Williams, or running back. He's very good as well. I'm going to get the last name wrong there, but he's very dynamic as well.
Yes,
but
he is. He's a Miami transfer.
Yeah. So if SMU gets hot, which they have been, if they roll into the ACC championship game, I think if they face off against Miami or Clemson,
it's going to be a fun
it is,
game to watch.
it will be. I think they win that game. Cody, we talked a little bit earlier about Alabama, and you mentioned Georgia and how Georgia was able to succeed against their defense late in the game. What do you think about Alabama here as of late? Do you think they are able to squeeze into that final playoff spot or not, or if that loss last week really takes them out of things? We all know that they shouldn't make the playoffs, but with the way that they played this week, kind of all really falls down on that.
And I will go ahead and tell everybody, most people know I'm a diehard Alabama fan, but I'm going to put it to you straight. I do not think Alabama deserves to be in the playoff this year just based on how they played. I'll be honest with you. That game last week against Oklahoma is probably one of the worst I've seen Jalen Milroe play as a quarterback.
Worst game I've ever seen Alabama play.
And that's what I was about to say as a whole. The defense couldn't get anything going against that offense of Oklahoma, which was kind of surprising to me. I mean, you go in and you stop one of the better offenses in the country, or not in the country, but in the SEC with Georgia for the first half, and then you can't even hardly keep up with Oklahoma. So I think that right now, going into the Iron Bowl game, this does not determine if they get in or not. This is just, who gets bragging rights for the year for Alabama. I do think that it does need to be looked at. If Milroe plays like he did last week, you look at probably playing Ty Simpson a little bit, see what he's going to do, see if maybe he can get the offense going. And I would look at, Deontay Lawson. He's out. So that's going to be a key factor on the defensive side too. So who do you put in Deontay Lawson's place against Auburn to try and fill those shoes?
I really think Auburn, going to Auburn, Alabama. Can Alabama remember that Jalen Milroe is the best athlete on the field? He's the best running back they got. Sometimes they forget that. And they want him to be a passer, and he can throw the ball. He's a good passer. But he is a dynamic, exciting runner. And sometimes they forget.
And I think Oklahoma did a good job shutting that
Well,
down.
I don't know if you noticed, they did the same thing a lot of teams have done to Auburn, where you're doing the zone read, you're reading the defensive end. We're on the film room, by the way.
Let's go.
You're reading the defensive end. Well, what they did is they're diving the defensive end no matter what, and they're rolling the safety behind him. And Peyton Thorne never sees that safety. Against Oklahoma, Jaden Milroe never saw that safety. And so he's reading the defensive end and thinking it's open, and it's not. And so how do you counteract that? How do you, motion a tight end to be an action blocker? I'm not enough of a coach, but that's something they got to figure out. Because, on Alabama's side, Jalen Milroe has got to run the ball. Because if he runs it, that unlocks the passing game. That unlocks Jim Miller. That unlocks a lot of things. Same thing for Auburn. I really hope Hugh Freeze shows up with a ribbon tied around his finger reminding him, Jarquez Hunter's on my team. I need to give him the ball.
He is probably
Because when I give it to him 28 times, we score 40-something points. When I give it to him 7 times, we throw 2 pick sixes and lose the game. Jarquez Hunter has got to carry the ball. Period.
Exactly.
He's got to carry the ball.
He's the best back in the country and has been underused all season.
100%.
Well, you have Ashton Jitty there as well, but Jarquez Hunter is very much so up there, top 3, top 5.
I really thought Alabama figured something out a couple weeks ago because they basically started running the I offense with Jam Miller as the fullback and Jalen Miller as the running back. And they're running counter and power and all that. And then last week they just didn't do it. And I don't have an explanation. I don't know enough that maybe Oklahoma did something defensively that made them not want to do it. But guess what? Auburn struggles with running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They just do. I mean, you look like Auburn plays good man pass defense. But like last week against Texas A&M, they went zone so they're not turning their back on Marcel Reed. Well, guess what? There's open people all over the field. And I think Texas A&M was like 7 for 8 on 3rd and long.
Yeah, they were good, and that's one thing about Auburn is they got to get off the field and bring it down.
That's exactly. And if Milroe is a threat running and Auburn has to go zone, now all of a sudden Milroe's passing game becomes a lot better. So that's something that Auburn's defense has got to get figured out. But that's something Alabama's offense got to figure out.
I go back to last year's Iron Bowl, 4th and 31. I mean, I know you don't want to hear that, Mr. B. I'm so sorry. But I go back to the 4th and 31. You talk about him being a good passer and him being a runner. Why does Auburn's defense only rush 2?
I just still want to know why we can't play the ball. Why am I hugged up on a man trying to push on him when the ball's coming 30-something yards down the field? I can just play the ball and knock it down. I don't have to hug the receiver. I don't have to guard the receiver. I got to play the ball. But no, I can't play the ball.
Hindsight is 20/20, but let me tell you something about what you need to do in the future whenever you're having trouble with your vehicle is go down to Kurt the guys.
J.K. Tire.
That's right. J.K. Tire in Steele, Alabama. I think I'm getting better at that. I think I'm getting better at that. Go down to J.K.
But you
Tire.
can't get better than J.K. Tire at fixing your tires.
That's right. But J.K. Tire in Steele, Alabama. They've got everything that you need. You can fix your tires, whether it's got a hole in it, whatever you need. If you need new tires, those guys have got it, whether it's your brakes, your alignments, your shocks, your struts. Guys are going to change my oil on Monday morning. You guys have got it going. So I highly appreciate what's that?
Kurt just changed mine on 2 weeks back.
You heard this guy. Kurt's the man. He takes care of all of us here. Well, maybe not you, but he takes care of me and Cody here at Chick-fil-A. You can call Kurt and the boys at 256-570-0777. That's 256-570-0777. And if you're making a decision on the go or what you want to eat, we all know it can be hard sometimes. If you're making a decision on the go, Chick-fil-A in Pell City can help you save time with easy-to-order options on the Chick-fil-A app. Plus, with every qualifying purchase, you'll receive points toward rewards. Chick-fil-A food we all enjoy just a tap away. Download the Chick-fil-A app now and order your favorites today. In participating areas of the state of Alabama, open your Chick-fil-A app when Auburn or Alabama score a touchdown from the red zone at home. By the way, that's going to happen tomorrow. And you will receive a free treat from our Chick-fil-A Iron Bowl giveaway. So that's a nice little treat. Get the Chick-fil-A app. Watch what happens tomorrow. Because I'm sure.
It'll be Alabama tomorrow. So if Alabama scores from the red zone, you get a treat. So let's hope there's no treats tomorrow.
There will be at least one touchdown in Bryant-Denny Stadium at Nick Saban Field.
At Nick Saban Field. That's the thing.
The good thing is, if Peyton Thorne throws an interception, which you can probably count on, Children's Hospital of Alabama will get money from Chick-fil-A. So you can probably count on that because you can count on Peyton Thorne to throw an interception. So hopefully Jalen Milroe throws a lot more. The Children's gets a lot of money in Auburn.
But now Auburn fans can't be mad whenever he throws an interception. They can't say, "Oh man, we just give money to charity." You know?
Maybe we can just all have a GoFundMe for children and throw no interceptions. I'd be okay with that.
I'd be okay with that too. You know, if Peyton Thorne throws an interception tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised at all. So
This game could turn into the battle of the defenses real quick.
I really thought Auburn's defense was playing well until last week. We just could not slow Texas A&M down, especially the second half.
Well, you said a lot about Auburn not being able to stop or having trouble with those mobile quarterbacks, and look at what Marcel Reed did. You know, he was very elusive, and that's just the guy that he is. He's not a guy that can go out there and throw it 45 times a game, win you a football game like that. But when he needs to improvise like he did last week, he's going to succeed every time. That's just him, and I think that's going to help them a lot tomorrow night against Texas, which is going to lead us into our next point. Tomorrow night, at least tomorrow night, Texas at Texas A&M in College Station on Kyle Field. The Aggies are facing off against Texas for the first time in over a decade. Who wins this football game? I'll send it over to Cody first. I think it's going to be a massive, massive football game.
Well, if you look at it, you said it's been over a decade, right?
Correct.
The stats on that is it's 76-37-1 with Texas leading in this rivalry. So they're on a hot streak right now. But Texas A&M has had its ups and downs. What team is going to show up and play this game? Could this be a blowout on Texas' part and Texas wins by a huge margin? Or do we go to the fourth quarter and it become a last-minute ball game? I think we're going to the fourth quarter and it's a last-minute ball game. I have Texas winning this one, but it's going to be close.
So we've got one horns. Are we going to go two horns?
I got to tell you, there's a lot of hate in all these rivalries. There may be as much hate in this one as anybody, and it's just you have they described this in the Egg Bowl today. You got the uppity team versus the working class team, and I really think Texas A&M has been looked down on by Texas for so long, and like you said, 13 years or so, they've been foaming at the mouth. Texas just stole their baseball coach. The 12th man has been waiting and aching for this because Texas would not play them. Texas A&M wanted to play. Texas wouldn't play them because they thought they were better than them. The 12th man will show up big tomorrow, and Texas A&M is going to win.
Georgia and Texas A&M in the SEC championship game. Who wins tomorrow night? We've got one A&M. We've got one for Texas. And I'm going to add those two together and go horns up. And I'm going to do that right there and go horns down because I think the Texas A&M Aggies are going to walk away tomorrow night with a win against the Texas Longhorns. Let me tell you why. It will be. It'll be fun. I think that the 12th man, like you said, you mentioned a lot about the 12th man. I think that they really come into play tomorrow night, and I think that the Texas Longhorns offense and Quinn Ewers is going to really, really struggle against that crowd. You look at what he did against in his home crowd. He really struggled against Georgia. So, and there was, by the way, Georgia traveled well in that game. So if you look at this game and you look at Texas going into Kyle Field, this is a terrible atmosphere.
Crazy environment.
This is a terrible atmosphere, or this is a terrible environment for Texas. And the A&M Aggies are going to win tomorrow night, and I will take the Aggies to be in the conference championship game. But do they win? We'll talk about we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But because our next game, we're gonna go ahead and round it out. Not round it out, I say, but I want to jump to Notre Dame and USC because this is a rivalry that is historically great. This year, maybe not so much, but you've got a new quarterback for USC in Jake Mayava. So, who's going to win this game, Mr. B? I'll send it to you.
I think Notre Dame is a better team, and I don't think anybody argue that. USC has struggled, but I got a funny feeling that USC is going to pull this game out. They've been USC 6-5, but all 11 games has led in the fourth quarter. I just think somehow, with the new quarterback, local quarterback, I think somehow they figure out a way, and I think they win this game. I think they pull the upset on Notre Dame. I have no facts or anything, just a gut feeling.
There's a growing stipulation that USC and Lincoln Riley is not necessarily a great football coach. Is he a great football coach? I think that question is kind of left unanswered.
He's a great offensive coach.
Yeah,
their
exactly.
defense leaves something to be desired.
I think he's an offensive coordinator, and I think that's kind of what he's kind of best at. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of over the past few years, his teams have been kind of So it'll be a fun game. It'll be a really
think
fun
that'll be
game.
a fun
It'll be a really fun game. Big time match. Like you said, USC has led like 11 games in the fourth quarter. It's
Got to
fun.
finish it off.
Exactly. They've got to finish it off. Look at what they did to LSU earlier on in the year. I mean, the team has the stuff to do it. By the way, this game is being played in California as well, so that helps out USC massively. Cody, what do you think about this game?
So I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Mr. B here. I mean, you got 11 games that led in the fourth quarter, but you look at defensively where are the issues at? Where are they usually getting you at the end of the game to usually lose it late? Well, I say rivalry game. You got USC and Notre Dame. USC is playing home. I feel like they're going to show up. They're going to play. They're going to give their best. And I will say I think that Notre Dame does go down in this game, but by how much? Are we looking at? I mean, I'm looking at within 3 to 7 points.
I think it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds, but I'm going to disagree with the both of you. I'm going to take the spirit the Trojan has. I'm going to shove it right into the horse. So I'm taking the
Irish.
I'm taking the luck of the Irish tomorrow night. I'm taking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to win this game. I think they win it outright, and I think they go in and they show USC that Notre Dame is here.
If they win, it won't be luck. It'll be them running down USC's throat.
And that's what I think that Jeremiah Love is a fantastic running back, by the way, too. So Riley Leonard has done a really good job this year proving me wrong. So I thought that coming into the year, it's Notre Dame, he'll be okay, but he won't necessarily – guys, he's been really good this year. He's been really good this year, and especially for Notre Dame and just fitting the offensive scheme that they've run. I really like Notre Dame, and I think they blow out USC tomorrow night.
If it's a blowout, it'll be in Notre Dame's favor. And they do. Notre Dame does a really good job of. They don't ask Riley Leonard to do too much.
Exactly.
I think that's you see that in and I always go back to Auburn for those games I watch a lot. A lot of times they just ask Peyton Thorne to do too much.
Exactly.
And they run the ball and they know who they are and they don't ask them to do too much. And Notre Dame's they're good. They're tough at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
They are. Farmageddon. Kansas State versus Iowa State. You have Iowa State hosting this game. A chance of snow tomorrow. So are we going to watch another snow game? I would love it. Last year it snowed in this game. I would love for that to happen. Farmageddon. Who wins? Cody, let's send it to you.
I have had a hard time since looking at this game, trying to figure out who's going to win. Both teams have been fairly decent all year long, and I think this is going to be a hard-fought battle. I have to say I'm probably going to regret my decision later, but the more I think about it, I got to go with Iowa State. They're playing at home. They got home field advantage. You're in the snow. Do they prepare a little bit better in the colder weather this week? I think so. I think Iowa State goes this one out.
Got one for the Cyclones.
I go. I'm going to shout out to my man Eddie Otterson. I'm going with Iowa State, his alma mater. I think they're at home. I think they've just been a little bit better in close games than Kansas State has this year. Kansas State has lost 3 or 4 close games, but they just couldn't finish at the end. I think Iowa State at home goes to the Big 12 championship.
So we're all agreeing on this one. I've had some higher expectations for Avery Johnson this year, and he has yet to come close to those. Earlier on in the year, I really thought that he was going to be some really big X factor for this Kansas State team, and he has not been that this year at all. So I wish he was a little bit better. I really thought he'd be a little bit better, but he has not been better. So I'm going to go with Iowa State.
I think they're missing Colin Clark
a lot. He's been a good OC, and him being A&M really I think it really helps A&M for one. But I really like the hire too by Elko in the offseason. So we clean sweep Iowa State. All right, guys, we're going to go on to South Carolina at Clemson tomorrow night in the great state of South Carolina.
I struggle with this game because Clemson's at home, but I haven't seen that it factor of Clemson this year. They haven't really beat anybody. Best team that beats who Pitt. They haven't really beat anybody really good. They don't look terrible, but they're just kind of
Yeah.
South Carolina has looked great the past few weeks, but it's at Clemson, and South Carolina is one of those games that can look great for 3 weeks and then look like hot garbage.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with this one, but I think ultimately, just hope South Carolina continues the hot hand, and I'm going to go with them with very little conviction. I'm going to pick South Carolina.
So the Gamecocks, we're going Gamecocks 1-0. Cody.
So I'm going to piggyback off Mr. B here. Clemson has really not been terrible, but not been great. And I think a lot of the reason behind that is Dabo Sweeney is more of an old school coach and a younger guy. He doesn't like to pull from the transfer portal. You know, he's not big with the NIL. You know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get good players. So you're kind of playing with what you got right now. But South Carolina has got something in a dual threat quarterback and a fantastic running back in the SEC. I mean, I've said that about a lot of running backs. They have played well together as a unit, as far as quarterback running back unit. I mean, they've played well together.
They play off each other very well.
I called the upset on Texas A&M, and so I'm going to stick with my team on this one. As South Carolina beats Clemson this weekend.
I want to talk about Cade Klubnik for a second because not a lot of people give Cade Klubnik too much respect, and I'm not going to respect him right now. Okay, I'm going to say this right now. Inferior opponents. He's been very, very good. He's been very precise. Starting at the beginning of the year, didn't have a great game against Georgia. Went on to I believe it was 6 games into the season, 5 games into the season. He was 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now you kind of flip the script a little bit. He's played some superior opponents, and some of those who have come out on top. But he isn't playing as well. And why is that? Well, let me tell you right now. The level of defense and the skill of these defenses that he has been playing, I'm going to go ahead and kind of say this right now. Pitt. Now, he did play a good game against Pitt, especially late when he had that late run to win the game. Yeah, that was very impressive. But I don't think that this weekend you have guys coming off the edge like Dylan Edwards, rookie freshman. Yeah.
That is a beast.
Insane. You have guys on the outside like wide receiver Nick Harbor, freshman, by the way, who's really come on toward the last few weeks of the season. These guys have been really good. And you talked about Rocket Sanders and the physicality of that man. I mean, holy crap.
Can I say this? I think Clemson and Penn State are almost mirror images of each other in that I think you hit the nail on the head. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
When it's time to step up, they don't.
When it's time to step up, they just don't seem to have it.
Not at all.
No, Penn State's a little bit better because Tyler Warren, that dude's really good.
Yeah, he's easy to do.
Penn State doesn't have a Tyler Warren. But
or an Abdul Carter.
Yeah, Moffa's pretty good. Moffa's pretty good. And Clemson's got some good guys on defense. But they just don't. I don't trust either one of them to when they play somebody really good that hits them in the mouth to just have anything for that.
Lenore Sellers takes over tomorrow night. Rocket Sanders runs the ball down Clemson's throat. Nick Harbor goes off. Dylan Edwards is going to be in the backfield. He's going to be making multiple sacks tomorrow night. I give him at least 3 sacks tomorrow night. I'll go Dylan Edwards and the Gamecocks to take down the Clemson Tigers in an absolute slugfest tomorrow night in Clemson, South Carolina. Now, with this game being at Clemson, I think it does help them, but I am going to go South Carolina. That's 2 clean sweeps in a row. We kind of jinxed it.
I mean, if we're smart,
we're smart. Rolling on, one of the best games of the day tomorrow, and I'm going to say it right now. Y'all may not think this, but I think Georgia Tech's going to be a really good game. Mr. B, I'm going to throw it over to you.
I don't think it's going to be a very good game.
Really?
Well, here's the deal. Georgia's defense is not going to get beat by a quarterback that can't throw the ball 15 yards downfield. Everybody knows. Haynes King is really good, but he's hurt.
Yeah.
And
you got follow now.
If you can stack the box, then Haynes King is out. And he's their leader. If you got to take him out and put Follow in, do you really trust a true freshman that went to Georgia Tech to beat that Georgia defense? I don't. It may be close for a little while. Georgia's going to end up pulling away.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll send it over to you, Cody, here in just a second. But what I think about this game is close at first. Cody, go ahead.
So, like we talked about earlier before the show, I look at Georgia ends up blowing out Georgia Tech, and here's why. I kind of piggyback. Haynes King, he has been hurt. But what Georgia does well with Kirby Smart is he was a defensive coordinator, defensive-minded guy. They can run any scheme of defense. They can change up at any second to go to whatever offense is being run. You're going to have guys coming off the edge. You're going to have linebackers blitzing. You're going to have whatever going on. If Haynes King gets hit just right, he's out early. I say he leaves early, and you're looking at, Carson Beck is going to lead the playoffs.
It could be close early. It could be a really good game if Haynes King was healthy. But I think we know he's not healthy and not going to be healthy. I just don't see Georgia Tech being unstable. I like Georgia Tech. I think they're tough. They're smart. I like their coach, but they're overmatched.
I agree. And I'll say this right now. I think I'll go close game at first. Like close game in the first half. Come out in the third quarter, still go close game. But about midway through that third quarter, you're gonna see Philo or King, whoever it is. You're gonna see those guys force a few too many turnovers that they don't need to make, and that's gonna eventually grow Georgia's lead. And I think Georgia ends up winning by double digits, of course. So I'll take Georgia in that one. So we're gonna go third clean sweep in a row. Now this one we can't go clean sweep on because if we do, it's not gonna happen. So I want to bring up this game, and first I want to say this is the biggest game in Alabama every single year. It just is. This is the greatest rivalry you will ever see take place on the football field. You have the Auburn Tigers traveling to Tuscaloosa, Alabama tomorrow night to take on tomorrow afternoon to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide at 2:30. Who wins this game on Nick's Saban field?
I think, first of all, let's say this. Let's be honest. This year, this game is normally the main course. This year is the appetizer because the main course is going to be Auburn and Alabama basketball this year. Those are going to be two phenomenal games. So I say tomorrow we forego the coin toss. Nate Oates, Bruce Pearl, arm wrestle for who gets the ball first.
I don't hate
that would be fun to watch because I'm here to tell you, I watch a lot of basketball. I feel confident that I know a lot of basketball. Auburn and Alabama right now are probably the two best teams in the country. They are both going to be that good. So that's going to be the main course. Tomorrow will be a little bit of an appetizer. I think if you break it down, I think it's pretty close. I think ultimately Tuscaloosa is the difference. The fact that the game's being played in Tuscaloosa. I think if you look at it with an unbiased opinion and you break it down, Alabama's the better team. They're probably going to win. But I'm not unbiased, and so I'm picking Auburn to win the game tomorrow. War Eagle.
Well, so this is our lead course, so our Pat McAfee for the day.
Yes.
We have Auburn 1-0. Cody, who do you have winning this game?
Auburn.
So I'm gonna say this.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Again, we're gonna go biased, unbiased opinions. I guess you could say. Auburn has kind of found something late in this season, and Mr. B has said it a ton this season. Auburn is probably the best, 5-6 team in the country, and he's not wrong. You got one of the top 3 running backs in the country in Jarquez Hunter. What do we see from Jarquez Hunter tomorrow night against Alabama's defense, who has struggled against the run and some against the pass? So what do you get tomorrow night? Again, I brought up the fact Deontay Lawson is out. That's going to hurt. for Alabama's defense. Jalen Milroe last week against Oklahoma threw 4 interceptions. I think it may have been 5, but 4 interceptions in this game. And 2 of them, I think he thought they were wearing red because they went right to the defender.
In fairness, they do have the same colors.
So, I really hate to say this because I don't like these words coming out of my mouth, but even though it's in Tuscaloosa, I'm saying Auburn wins this Iron Bowl in the fourth quarter.
I will say, can I say this? Auburn's won 10 games this year. They beat the other team 5 times, and they beat themselves 5 times. They've only got beat once. But that it's a struggle. It's a struggle to trust that in Tuscaloosa they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot.
Well,
but I still can't figure it
Mr. B, and Hayden, sorry to. Oh no, go ahead. Yeah. But one thing I do want to give Auburn credit on is it doesn't matter who their head coach has been in years past. Every year since I've grown up, Auburn has had one of the best defenses in the country, especially cover and run. That front 7 is always massive and can move people. And it doesn't matter. Go back to when they had, I think it was Nick Fairley. Big dude up front, 300 pounds, but was fast. He could move people. They always have those guys. Their defense is going to play a factor. Does Jalen Milroe get pressured enough that he ends up throwing that last-minute pick? Maybe not be.
I hope so.
I mean,
go Children's Hospital.
That's where I come in to say that I think we shoot ourselves in the foot and Alabama loses this game on a pick.
Y'all are gonna make us look like fools tomorrow. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. I had my pick set in place since yesterday. I battled with this game all week, and I'm gonna tell y'all why we're gonna look stupid here in just a second. Basically, what's gonna happen tomorrow night is DeMarcus Riddick. Obviously, he's run his math a little bit this week.
That was
the stupidest thing anybody.
That was a rookie mistake.
Yeah, well, you get a freshman.
Why poke the bear?
Tomorrow night.
Ryan Williams is a freshman too. You guys for real. I'm here to tell you, you may not realize this. He's pretty good.
According to DeMarcus Riddick, he's pretty average.
If I'm not mistaken,
DeMarcus Riddick is probably got he didn't have to cover.
You actually got 2 freshman wide receivers going.
Is Iowa winning tomorrow night? Is Iowa winning tomorrow night?
Iowa for sure.
Hey, come on, come here. All right, I want you to look in the camera. Come on, you can get down a little bit and say who's going to win tomorrow. Is Iowa going to beat Nebraska?
Yes. By 5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns.
Five for LSU though, but go Tigers.
There you go.
But Bama's trash, A&M's trash, and Florida's trash as well. So go Tigers.
We're getting
all
some
day.
strong opinions.
I agree with him. I was going to win. I don't know that I was allowed to score 5 touchdowns. I think there may be some sort of state law that prevents that.
They may score 5 points.
That may be enough to win.
It may be enough to win. Nebraska's offense is not the greatest. So
Well, I feel like Iron Bowl's going to be a real good game, but you just don't know what's going to happen in Iron Bowl. I mean, the way Alabama beat them last year, I feel like Auburn's going to do the same thing to them in their stadium.
what's going to happen tomorrow night? You've got Auburn facing off against Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Do they win? Do they not win? Well, guess what? I'm going to go and I'm going to regret this tomorrow at 6:30. We can't clean sweep. We can't clean sweep in this game, but we did. I'm going with the Auburn Tide because I think that front 7 plays a critical role tomorrow night in this game. And like we said, Alabama, talent-wise, they're better. Alabama as a whole, I think they're better. But I think with the way the season's gone for Alabama so far, and I think with how Auburn has played over these last few weeks, you bounce back, show what you can do last week against A&M. You finish that game off. This is a team that's routing into this game red hot. And I seriously think that Auburn's going to win tomorrow night, and I think they'll probably win by a touchdown. I think it'll be a close game. They're going to get their first win in Bryant-Denny Stadium and first win on Nick Saban Field. First time they ever played on Nick Saban Field. But
The first one is Bryant-Denny Stadium.
no, since 2010.
So we got the can back.
No, you got the can back. You can't forget that one. No, I didn't get
Neither
that.
can Harvey Upnight.
Go with Auburn tomorrow night.
If I could get out, I would walk off on that one.
we have clean swept, and tomorrow about what time is it now?
It is 5:59.
24 hours from now, we will be regretting our words because we just clean swept. So we've just basically jinxed this Auburn football team. So
Well, Cody would like this.
yeah, good. He would like that. Would you like that?
No, I want Auburn to win.
Well, I mean, if you hadn't swapped teams on us, you wouldn't like it either.
I have never swapped teams. I have just become an unbiased reporter. That's what I this is not CBS. This is HCS Media.
Yeah. Unbiased, Alabama. There's no reason that they shouldn't win the game. But again, I'm biased.
I'm with you.
I'll be honest. I can't. I've picked Auburn every game this year. I can't not pick Auburn. I don't know how to do it.
Did you do it against Georgia?
I did. I can't not pick Auburn.
Well, I picked Alabama against Oklahoma, and you see what happens. So we're going to see what happens this week.
I told my wife that was the worst thing that could have happened to Auburn was that game being the week before. Because Coach DeBoer's got everybody's attention this whole week. As if he wasn't going to before, he definitely does now.
Change my pick to Alabama.
That's what it takes to not jinx us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you for joining. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been the Hayden Coker Show. Thank you to Cody Mueller, the catering director here at Chick-fil-A, and Brian Jennings, the operator here at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a big key to this show, one of our major sponsors. So I highly appreciate y'all for joining us, Mr. Brian.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Cody Mueller. Thank you for joining us, and we will see y'all next week. We've got a lot to talk about next week. We will break down the conference championship games. Who is going to be playing? Jacksonville State, looking like it's going to be playing Sam Houston State, the winner of that game. I haven't even checked the winner. I haven't been able to yet, but we will see. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. You want to end it for us, Mr. B?
Y'all have a good day. Enjoy the Iron Bowl. Buy some chicken nuggets. Or eat.
Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic